Now, when it comes to audiophile grade sound, we can count on some really go to speakers in our industry that provide that for us. One such speaker company is Morel. Today, we've got their product expert, Cory Stocklin, joining us, and we're really going to break down some of the key technologies that make Morel stand above the rest. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by Sirius XM, all about Morel, and it starts now. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by Sirius XM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and you know I love talking audiophile grade components because we get to lift underneath the veil and get real technical about the specific things that make each product different. Morel is certainly no exception to this case, with a slew of different technologies that are not only innovative, but also proprietary. We've got Cory joining us. Now, Cory, thanks for being with us. We're going to get into it real deep. Let's roll up the sleeves, but what do you think we're going to be talking about today?
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me on. Yeah, we're going to be talking about all the things that really make Morel what it is, like the motor structure designs, Hexatech wire, voice coil wiring, all the things that really make us stand out.
Gosh, I love it when you talk nerdy with me, and this is going to be an exciting episode. But first, I want to give an opportunity for our partner, Sirius XM, to chime in and remind you why it's always an excellent add-on sale. And when we come back, let's get geeky with Morel. Don't you do?
Hi, Paul Truman here with Sirius XM. We reached out to some of our partners in the industry, and here's what they had to say.
I can't say more or enough about just what it means to have our unit working with Sirius XM. It's like we're there now.
The Sirius XM service is something consumers want, right? So it's Paul.
That allows a consumer to listen to either podcasts, entertainment, sports, all at their fingertips. It's all about engagement, and that's what Sirius XM provides.
Sirius XM is a huge component in a vehicle nowadays. Consumers expect that technology to be available both in our OEM system as well as the aftermarket upgrades that they're applying to their vehicle.
Alpine and Sirius XM, through our electronics, are able to offer the consumer on the aftermarket side Sirius XM 360L, which is an expanded platform for Sirius XM. And it's really been a beneficial relationship for us with Sirius XM.
As a dealer, just remember, we don't compete with anybody else. We are absolutely one of the best profitability accessories you can add to any head unit that is Sirius XM ready.
All right, thanks for joining us today on today's Connected. We're featuring Morel as a brand. And before the break, we're talking with Cory Stocklin from Morel about some key technologies. But before we dive into specific things, one thing we need to understand about Morel is this is a true loudspeaker manufacturer. In fact, over 5 decades that this brand has been around. So, Cory, talk to us a little bit about, that mission statement, that goal that you're always trying to achieve whenever you're coming up with a speaker with the Morel brand on it.
Well, I don't want to jump the shark because we celebrate our 50-year anniversary next year, so it's not quite plus 50 years yet, but we'll be around that long. Nonetheless, all the products that we build are trying to hit a performance characteristic and high performance value for the customer. By doing in-house building and controlling all the parameters of our speakers, we're able to do that, and with tight tolerances and high grade components means that the customer gets the benefit of everything that we do, and we get to eke every minuscule amount of performance out of our drivers.
Well, Cory, thank you for making that distinction. Almost there, 50 years. I might have jumped it a little bit. But nonetheless, we're talking nearly 5 decades of experience. And I want to chime in on something you mentioned there. There are a lot of brands in audio in general, not only in car audio, that, have other manufacturers create the speaker for them and then they put their brand on it. I want to make this distinction because we're talking about the audio, that high audio fidelity type customer, the critical listening customer that really appreciates the componentry that they're investing in. And when it comes to Morel, everything that Cory said there, it just hits the nail on the head. It's designed, engineered, and built. Nearly everything is done in-house. So all those tolerances you talked about there, I think is something that, these type of customers would certainly appreciate. Let's dive into a couple of the key features that I, for one, feel are very unique to Morel, and I wanted to take the time to kind of explain to our listeners what each one of those are. The first one I want to start with is something called Hexatech. Now, this is referring to a technology that Morel uses in the way they wind the coils for their voice coil. Can you give us a little bit more elaboration on that, Cory?
So Hexatech is a specific aluminum wire that we use in our speakers. It's hexagonal, and that allows the windings to be grouped a lot tighter to remove air and gapping in the actual windings. This reduces heat buildup improves heat dissipation, and also condenses all the wires to make sure that we get that magnetic flux control on the voice coil a lot tighter and a lot better overall cone control. This means that we get higher resolution, less distortion, and better overall fidelity out of the speaker.
You know, Corey, that makes a lot of sense because if you can imagine, instead of being a round wire, you're using a hexagon shaped wire, therefore increasing the surface area of contact between the wires. What that means is that if you compare a Morel voice coil versus a similar brand or a similar speaker with the same size voice coil, for sure the Morel is going to provide more performance because there's simply more material and more contact. Pretty ingenious, don't you think? All right, let's get to the next one here. I have it down as a voice coil former, but I'm going to let Corey kind of dive into that a little bit deeper for us.
Well, Morel doesn't have a patent on voice coil formers, and the stuff that we use is used in the industry. But what we approach the subject is a lot more in depth than most other manufacturers. We don't have a problem spending the money on high grade, large size voice coil formers, which means that we get the bigger the voice coil, the better heat dissipation, the better power control on the cone itself, a bigger glue joint. It gives you a lot more control over that cone, makes it so that there's less distortion, better performance out of the driver. And then our formers are actually made out of materials that are usually a little bit more expensive, but give you better overall performance on the driver as well. We use aluminum, titanium as some of our core units when using or building these speaker designs.
So, if you're just tuning in and you're wondering why we're going so deep into these little features within a loudspeaker, well, that's because you're probably an audiophile and you care about what's going into your car. And this is why we're taking the time talking about Hexatech, talking about voice coil formers, and our next topic, which is going to be the motor assembly. Now, every speaker has a motor assembly, but Morel, again, takes a little bit different take on it.
So yeah, Morel does do things quite differently with the motor structures. We offer, the traditional ferrite magnet is pretty common across all of car audio, but what most people do is an outside magnet. Morel does EVC, which means an exterior voice coil. Our motor structure is actually inside of the voice coil itself. This means that we are magnetically shielded. We can control the magnetic flux a lot better, but we also use different materials that is not very common with other manufacturers. We do ferrite, we do neodymium, and we also do a combination. That's what our hybrid speakers are made of. It's a stack of the two materials. Every time that you use neo or you use high-grade ferrite magnets, you can actually control more motor flux. And when you stack the two together, you can control it even more. That means that the size of the motor doesn't need to be as big. It can be smaller and still have that power and that control and that motor flux we're looking for. With our oversized voice coils, that allows us to do the EVC to make it so the voice coil is on the outside of the magnet structure and make our overall baskets a lot smaller. And then the Hexatech, yet again, everything comes down to heat dissipation, power handling, and then overall reduction of distortion and better performance out of your driver. All of these come together to give you that superior performance.
Well, Corey, thank you for taking time to kind of summarize all those technologies together. But one of the things that you did mention is that the overall basket size seems to be a little bit smaller when it comes to the Morel drivers. And this is an interesting point because it's great that we're talking about all these technologies that really help improve the performance. But if we can't fit the speakers into the vehicles that we're installing into, well, then we kind of have a problem. Lucky for us, Morel comes to the rescue with a wide range of solutions and some very peculiar ones that you might not understand at first, but I got my man Corey to explain you what fitment means at Morel.
So what we were talking about in the previous segment with the motor structure, the voice coil wire, all of that comes down to making it so that the baskets are a lot smaller and we can actually have the same motor, the magnetic flux and motor strength in our speakers without having to have the physical size. And that really comes to play in something like this, the Virtus nanocarbon. With the design that we have of the large voice coil, we can actually make a grasp on the cone that's a lot wider, and it makes it so that we can do things with like the Grand Dome and make the speaker actually come out and push the entire motor structure up on the inside. Using neodymium magnets and the EVC technology with a large voice coil means that we have great power control of the cone and overall of the speaker without losing any performance value. On the rest of our product lines, those EVC motors allow the cone to not have to be as deep and means that we can get huge power handling out of a shallower speaker than a traditional design. Power handling up to from 100 watts up to 200 watts RMS. Another example of this would be with our brand new Ultimo Power Slim subwoofer. We are using a 5-inch voice coil on the motor with a double stack ferrite magnet on the inside, which gives us up to the 10 is 600 watts RMS and the 12 is 700 watts RMS, but allows us to have a fitment of 3.1 inches of mounting depth on the 10 and 3.4 inches of mounting depth on the 12, meaning that you can fit this pretty much anywhere in any vehicle. The 10 requires a 0.5 cubic foot sealed box, and the 12 requires a 0.8. So as you can see, we can stuff this thing pretty much in any vehicle, regardless of installation requirement.
So as you can see, those are just two examples of some pretty unique fitment scenarios that Morel certainly offers and really is solving solutions for just about every vehicle that's coming into your bay. Now, the final piece of this puzzle is dedicated to support because sometimes you need that extra support to really squeeze out every last ounce of performance when it comes to this high fidelity sound. So, Cory, I'd like for you to explain just how Morel supports its customer base with not only the information, but the knowledge to make sure you're optimizing every system when it comes to audiophile sound.
As far as support goes, we try to be involved in our dealers' work and the outcome of all of the projects that they work on. We want you guys to call us and talk to us about what you want to achieve in each car, system design, subwoofer box design, amplification, anything that comes into this system. We want to be able to help you make sure that you have the right choices to not only hit budget, but also performance guarantees to the customer, and also for our customers to be able to have the best experience overall. All of our subwoofer designs are built in car to give you the best performance with minimum requirements for installation, and all of our speakers are designed for best in-car performance. If you're doing active systems, we have no problem helping you guys pick crossover points, design speaker layouts, and then also maybe custom placements or just overall placement and fitment inside the vehicle. We want to work with you. We want to talk with you. We want to help you to make sure that you have the best experience overall with the Morel signature sound.
And that was Morel's Cory Stocklin joining us for a session on the ins and outs of what makes Morel unique and so technologically advanced, might I add. Now, if you want any more information on any of the products that we covered on today's show, make sure you find out more at morelhifi.com. And if you happen to be a dealer in Canada, then you need to know to connect with the folks at GemSen, as they are the official distribution partner for Morel north of the border. Now, in my opinion, Morel is an iconic, legendary brand within our industry. It's been around for nearly 5 decades, and they will continue doing so. These guys push the envelope when it comes to performance. They innovate by creating new technologies to optimize their performance. They are also very heavily invested in making sure that their products are built by them, not off the shelf, but designed, engineered, and tested for in-car performance. When it comes to fitment, this is a brand that also covers you on that points. When it comes to making sure that you can get optimum sound into strange scenarios, such as hot rods with very thin door panels, or maybe it's a trunk that barely has any space. Whether it's an amplifier or sound damping, this is a complete brand that can really help you as a store complete that sale and deliver that premium sound that that customer is looking for. At the end of the day, if you're looking for a brand that's premium but also offers solution, I think Morel might be the one for you. That's it for the CMA Connected, brought to you by Sirius XM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.